It's back. Welcome back to episode 35 of Icebreaker. AJ, how are you? Looking fresh, by the way.
Very well. Yeah, that's a big deal. Our barbers and our hair salons opened 3 weeks ago, and I let it lapse a little bit. 3 weeks later, yeah, it feels really good to get the haircut. I recommend it if you haven't done it yet.
It's such an underrated feeling. But before we get started, I just want to say episode 35 of Icebreaker is presented by the Icebreaker newsletter. Well, you sign up, you'll receive special offers all related to the Winnipeg Ice Icebreaker, the Ice Gear online store. So check that out. You can sign up at icebreakershow.ca and good stuff coming there monthly. So check that out. But yeah, haircuts are such an underrated feeling, especially when you can't get one.
But when it's really long, you're like, oh, it's a novelty to have kind of long hair. It's kind of in the way, but yeah, once you get it cut, you don't realize how fresh that feels. It's good.
It's unreal. And
Good.
yeah, I mean it's an incredible feeling. But the NHL took to the outdoor ice this past weekend,
Yeah.
and a little bit of a hiccup along the way.
Says here the game, which was between Colorado and Las Vegas, lasted a grand total of 10 hours and 37 minutes because they couldn't get the ice right.
That oh my gosh! So after the first period, there was a lengthy delay, kind of like a rain
Yeah,
delay in baseball, but it was the ice.
it was just the ice delay. It was I don't know if the weather was too nice. They weren't getting what they wanted. That game didn't end until after midnight. Talk about carbon up in the locker room.
Yeah, no kidding. But how cool is the backdrop of that game? Like just the scenery.
That's the other side of it is, yeah, you have this huge delay, but just to see that with the mountains and Lake Tahoe in the background, I wish they could do that more often, but very clearly they cannot. Those poor
There,
guys.
yeah, I mean that would be very annoying. I wonder, if their skates were off, what they were doing, and if they actually had a time frame. I don't know that details. But before we move on from the NHL, I just wanted to say my Manitoba Building Trades hot take of the week,
All right.
and that
Yeah.
is after reading online some stats, some crazy stats. I'm going to say that Austin Matthews is going to have 56 goals in 56 games this season.
Oof. All right. You know what? That's feasible. I like that as a hot take.
Maybe
Well,
we'll get
I'd like to
one.
see that happen.
Could get one right here. Maybe. It's not just any project, it's the opportunity of a lifetime. It's about building something great for Manitoba. That's why you turn to the talent and craftsmanship of Manitoba's expert tradespeople. Manitoba Building Trades is Manitoba's unionized construction industry. Productive labor is our business. With over 10,000 skilled trade professionals, we build what others can only imagine. Visit mbtrades.ca and come build with us. Not entirely out of the question that he gets that.
No, I don't think so. He's up to 18 and 18. So, I mean, it's a good pace that he's on. And it's funny. It's sneaky, too, because everybody's watching Connor McDavid because he's a points behemoth
Yeah.
this year. But the goals in games, that's a really cool stat. And that'd be a cool feather to put in Austin Matthews' cap.
No question. And last week, I guess Carson Wentz was dealt, so they're all in on Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. Philly's all in on Hurts apparently, and Indy. I don't know if they thought. I said when it happened because it wasn't much of a deal. If I'm not mistaken, it was a third and a conditional second round pick to get Wentz.
Yeah,
And I said if Wentz goes off, like maybe Wentz was just in the wrong place. If all of a sudden he like has a resurgence and he turns into a high tier quarterback again, that's a steal for
yeah, but
Indy.
the
He's got a lot of years left.
the conditional second round pick turns into a first round pick if he goes off. So then it is worth it.
It's still worth it. So I hope that we haven't seen the last of Carson Wentz because that guy was producing. And sometimes it can just be you're in the wrong city or you're in the wrong system, and maybe you just don't have the right line in front of you. And Indy's got a hell of a line. Philip Rivers did very well behind him.
Yeah, I mean, I hope he does well. He did. He really did struggle in Philly, and that's a hard place to struggle with the fans and
Yeah.
that type of thing, the pressure. So wishing him all the best. Big news at the end of last week, and that was that Winnipeg Ice captain Peyton Krebs was reassigned back to the ice, which is great news for all Ice fans.
Yeah, that's fair. It's pretty fresh news still, but either way, what are we now? We're still a couple weeks until the start of that season, so there's a
Yeah,
chance.
March 12th, so still a ways out from the start of that season, which is exciting now. And it seemed like every week we came on here, one division was ready to play, kept getting the go ahead. We're still waiting on the BC division, but it'll be exciting when the whole league's, back and kind of playing in their own little leagues for this year. But great to see the Western Hockey League back in action, especially in our neck of the woods.
Sure is.
You got some trivia for me this week?
We're going to do some trivia. I've based all the questions off of some stuff that has happened, maybe even some stuff we've talked about here. So we're going to cover a bunch of sports, and we're even going to include some curling. I know you're a huge curling fan, Mac.
Hey, so last week you went 4 for 5. The week before you went 4 for 5. I went 5 for 5. So right now you're 8 for 10. I'm 5 for 5. And based on your description here, I feel like I might be 8 for 10 or worse after this one.
Well, we're going to lob you up a real good softball for the first trivia question. Okay. Carson Wentz playing for Indy now, and he's replacing Phillip Rivers, who in one season, Phillip Rivers became the 11th best quarterback in Colts history.
Okay.
Who's the number one on that list?
Peyton Manning?
Peyton Manning, yeah, okay. That's correct.
Okay, 1 for 1, easy.
Question number 2 is football related as well. Since 1997, Mac, the Pittsburgh Steelers have only had 3 starting quarterbacks. Name one that wasn't Ben Roethlisberger.
Mason Rudolph.
Should I count that? Because he's a backup. He started a game or two, but never.
He started.
He was okay. Okay, I'll give you a point there. I didn't even think about Mason Rudolph. On my list, by the way, for those keeping score at home, I had Tommy Maddox and the incredible Cordell Stewart.
Yeah.
That's before your time, I think, though, Mac.
Okay, well, when I hear starting quarterback, he started. It's like when teams say they've had 12 different starting goalies, the guy started the game.
You found the loophole. You're 2 for 2. Here's your third question. Scotty's Tournament of Hearts is on right now. How many of the rinks in the tournament are from Manitoba?
How many of the rinks?
Mm-hmm.
Geez, I don't know. All of them?
No, that's not at all. It's a national championship. Surprisingly, though, Team Canada is a Manitoba rink. Team Manitoba is obviously a Manitoba rink.
So rinks is a team in curling? That's what that means?
Absolutely.
Well, I didn't know that.
That's okay. Do you want to take another guess?
3.
Actually 5.
4, 5, wow.
Manitoba dominated and got all 3 wild card teams at the Scotties this year. So there are 5 Manitoba rinks in the tournament.
I got to do some reading.
I'm so happy now that you are 2 for 3 that I'm going to stick with curling for this next question. There is a tie right now for the skip with the most wins at the Tournament of Hearts all time. Can you name either of those skips?
I'm going to go with Jennifer Jones.
Yeah. Jennifer Jones and Colleen Jones are tied with 6 wins at the Scotties Tournament of Hearts.
Yeah, that's.
So this is to go 4 for 5, and this is to keep your lead overall.
Yes.
And we're going with hockey.
Oh, okay.
And based on the 10-hour game played between the Colorado Avalanche and the Vegas Golden Knights, the longest hockey game without a weather delay was in the year 2000. Eastern Conference semis, which 2 teams were playing?
Geez, I don't know.
The Pittsburgh Penguins and the Philadelphia Flyers.
Wow.
And the game lasted 156 hockey minutes.
I'm off my trivia game today. Way off.
Well, you know what? The questions always get a little harder the deeper that we get into this. So that leaves us tied 8 out of 10 each. And we'll head into next week. Your questions, my stumbles.
I feel like you just went about this and were like, I got to get this guy stumped on on many here and just ask some insane questions.
I think I just like curling a little bit more than you. You should have seen the other question I had written down for the Scotties. It was really going to throw you for a loop.
Well, let's do it. Let's do a bonus question then.
Okay, bonus question. I'll give you a point if you can get this, Mac. Next to Jennifer Jones, who is the second winningest Manitoban skip at the Scotties?
Next to Jennifer Jones, the second winning.
Yeah. Winningest skip from Manitoba in the history of the Scotties.
I have no idea.
The great Connie Laliberty, voted 14th greatest Canadian curler of all time.
Yeah, these questions.
I would have given you 5 points if you would have gotten that one right.
Yeah, these questions are a little bit crazy, but we'll give them to you. I'm going to come back next week with some real hard questions.
Well, so I dug my own grave then.
You better be studying everything and everything. Anyways, moving on here. We got a great show today. Mitch Peacock, he's back. We do a little bit of a more in-depth segment here on the Western Hockey League as we get closer to the start date. And without further ado, we're going to bring him right in. Let's start it off, I guess, a little bit. You had the chance to catch up with Carson Lambos, and he's excited about the idea of a 24-game schedule as well.
Oh, boy, is he ever. He can't wait. It's an exciting time for all these Western Hockey League players, and the ice players are no exception. They're raring to go. They want to get to Regina. They want to get on the ice and practicing with their teammates, and they want to get those games going. When I was talking to Carson, he had a great line. He says, practice is good, but I play to play. And so they want to get out there and they want to compete, and they want to see how they size up against the other teams. There's been a little bit of talk about, well, there may not be playoffs, and if there's not playoffs, what's this for? Well, it's for pride. It's for, competition. It's for guys who want to see how they measure up to get out there and do their thing. So, let's not get fooled by thinking this is some sort of an exhibition affair. These guys are serious and they want to get to work. And speaking of work, of course, Carson's been getting in some work. He spent 4 months in Finland with Jip Jyväskylä, had some experience playing in the junior league in Finland, got into 2 professional games there. And I just talked about how important it was for him to not only keep playing in his draft year, but to move away from home for the first time and experience what it's like not to live in the friendly confines of a family house and stick to your normal routines. And I thought it was really interesting because so often, let's face it, Western Hockey League players have to leave their homes and have to settle in with those terrific billet families here in Winnipeg and across the league. And it's a great part of the learning experience of playing in the WHL is becoming an adult and moving away from home and developing that independence. And so while Carson, who's a Winnipegger playing in Winnipeg, had to go somewhere overseas to do it, the reality is the vast majority of players in the Western Hockey League are already doing it. And it's a really important part of their overall development as people. And, we hear that in the league that, they're developing hockey players for a chance at the next level, but they're also developing people. And that chance to go away, like Carson had, is very important. So I thought that was a neat element of it. And, also with Carson, we're talking about a guy who's projected to go in the first round of the upcoming NHL entry draft. And, while it's an incredible privilege and speaks to his abilities, there's also some pressure that goes along with that. And, I asked him about it because it'd be easy to be distracted if you think you got to, do something extra or be something, more than you are every time you go on the ice. And he said that he had a chance to skate with Manitoban NHLer Travis Hamonic a little while back. I'm talking about a summer or 2 ago. And he said he got a great piece of advice from Travis that has stuck with him and says, it's an important part of his mindset right now. And that is that you're never as good as they say you are, and you're never as bad as they say you are. So he said, when I see draft rankings that say, oh, you're going to go number 2, or I see draft rankings that say, I'm not sure if he's going to go in the first round. He said, I try to remember what Travis told me and not get carried away and just concentrate on doing the work. So really great to catch up with Carson. He's, such a terrific person and he's got his head screwed on straight. And I don't know if there's anybody more eager to get into that bubble than he is.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if this came up in the course of your conversation, but he had some really good games playing wise, but points wise as well, playing in the Brandt Center in Regina last season.
And I think we're still talking, Mac, about that end-to-end goal he scored. The team was playing its third game in 3 days. They had played in Saskatoon on the Friday night, won a wild one where they had a huge comeback. They got a point from an overtime game in Prince Albert the night before. And then the third game in 3 days, a Sunday afternoon affair in Regina against the Pats. Always challenging to play those games. And he came out and took the game by the scruff of the neck. And I know that you, as a guy who's responsible for a lot of the video work with the team in terms of getting out highlights and stories and features, etc. You've gone to that highlight a few times because it was end to end and an unbelievable shot. So yeah, he's got a lot of fond memories of that place.
Yeah, there's no question. And later on last week, you did a little bit, a nice little piece on the newcomers to the East Division, and we touched on the ice players a little bit. But what can you tell me about, Geeky, Bruce, and Berthollet, who are looking to forge their way into the Western Hockey League?
It's the lifeblood of the league, isn't it? You've got to have the fruits of the scouts' labors pay off, and you've got to have good quality talent coming in year after year to keep your program going and to give young people an opportunity to become the best players that they can be. And this group of ice players looks pretty solid. And I think ice fans are lucky because, they've had a chance to see some of these guys. Well, all three of the guys you mentioned already, they've got their feet wet. They're experienced with the league a little bit. And I think that makes a huge difference. Being around the coaches, being around the dressing room, getting to know the guys, getting to know the team's routines, playing at home, and getting a sense of playing on the road as well. I know for Chase Berthollet, he got his first Western Hockey League point in his last game in Regina before things were put on hold last year. So he's had some experience on the road, as has Skylar Bruce and Connor Geeky. And so what I can tell you about those players is they're excellent players. They're all very different players, and they all should be important parts of the team in different ways in their first full seasons. With Connor, you're talking about second overall pick in the draft. Size, strength, hockey sense, two-sport athlete, a guy who's really good at baseball. And I think, more and more experts are saying you want to see players have that balance in their life and be athletic guys. And there's no doubt he's an athletic guy, and that's an athletic family. So he's going to be one to watch, a guy I think people are really excited about. Played some in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League this year with Verdon. Looked like he was fitting in very nicely there, 4 points in 9 games. Skylar Bruce is a guy I think that when he starts to click offensively at the Western Hockey League level, is going to put some numbers up. And I'm not saying that's going to be this year. I don't want to put pressure on the young man, but everybody I talk to about him just says he's a playmaker. He's got good vision. He can score goals. If you're wondering about a pedigree, played in the Canadian Sports School Hockey League with Northern Alberta Extreme. And how did he do there? Well, 129 points in 62 games. So that tells me there's a kid there who knows where the net is. And, you're talking about a guy now who's, as we said, got 10 games in the league and is, he's been around a little bit. So I think there's going to be a confidence there for him, a comfort level for him. And I think we're going to start to see that offensive side come out from Skylar Bruce. Chase Berthollet, one of the things with Chase, everybody says to me when I ask about it is, look at the work, look at the hunger, look at the guy who just wants to get out there and help his team any way that he can. And I don't think you can put a price on that. In a world where you need competitive people, you need people who want to win, you need people who are going to show up and work, people who can set an example for a team. You need those guys. And in some cases, they're going to be young guys. You want everybody to feel like they're a part of it. Everybody contributes. Everybody's a leader in their own way, as some coaches like to say. And I think he can set an example just with the work rate. And then, he was a guy who had a point a game over 2 years playing U18 AAA in Prince Albert. So, there's an upside there in terms of being able to chip in on the attack as well.
Yeah, a funny little story about Chase Berthollet here before we move on was in the last game you mentioned where he got his first point against the Pats was before the game, and you talk about his work ethic, but a humble and really, really nice person. He came up to me and he said, I don't want to be a bother, but my teammate from Prince Albert is the backup goalie today in Regina. Do you think that you could ask or get someone to take a picture of us in warm up? And he was really nervous about asking me. And I said, that's no problem. Thanks for letting me know. Like, that's a great little tidbit, and I'm happy it worked out for him in the end. But one of the big storylines coming into the East Division is the exceptional status of Connor Bedard.
Boy, this is something that I think is still a giant story. I think it would have been really big coming into a regular season, with things getting cranked up at the end of last summer, let's say, and a whole season laying out in front of us. But while it's been put on hold like so many other things due to the pandemic, it's still going to be a big story. People are going to be very excited to watch Connor Bedard go to work. He's out of the West Van Academy Prep program, the Canadian Sports School Hockey League. He is, as you said, exceptional player status, the very first in the history of the Western Hockey League, only the 7th all time in the CHL, alongside names like John Tavares and Connor McDavid, Shane Wright most recently before him. And this is something that I know that Hockey Canada, Hockey BC put a lot of thought into. They don't want to put these young men into situations where they're not going to be successful. So he's checked the boxes in terms of his ability to handle this off the ice, and certainly with his offensive ability. I mean, talking about 84 points in 36 games last year. And remember, that's a U18 league, and he was 14. So that's pretty exceptional. And I think that he seems like, in the interviews that I've seen with him, to be focused and balanced and have things in perspective. He played in Sweden a little bit this year in the National Junior League in Sweden, had a point a game. He's recently practiced with West Kelowna of the BC Hockey League. And he's of such interest in Regina that people I talked to there have said that there have actually been rumblings in the community, anxious Pats fans wondering, well, why is he practicing in Sweden or Kelowna? Why can't he come and practice here? They're so keen to make him their own and to just, bring him in and almost wrap their arms around him, from some standpoint, just to say that he's ours and he's going to be the star here. And it's going to be fun to watch because it always takes time for players to adjust to new levels and new situations. And I think what I'm curious to know is what kind of time is it going to take for him to settle in and feel comfortable? I know the Pats have done a terrific job in welcoming him and making him feel a part of it. I don't doubt that for a second. But there's always that adjustment on the ice. These are bigger guys and stronger guys, and the games are going to be thick and fast. And how is he going to settle in? And as I say that, I'm imagining a multiple point game in his first game, and we'll put all those questions to rest. But Connor Bedard is certainly a big storyline going into the bubble, to the hub, to the double, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, so we talked about the ice newcomers, talked about the big story. Who else should we watch as newcomers into the East Division?
Well, when you say that, it just makes me think that each team has a big story. They may not have the Connor Bedard, but they've got the guys that are important to them, the guys they put a lot of time and effort into drafting and recruiting and getting on board. So it is worth taking a look at those new faces because as you well know, the guys that are the newcomers this year are going to be the NHL draft prospects, are going to be the stars of the division a year or two down the road. So we might as well start to get used to some of the names. I guess I'll start with the Brandon Wheat Kings out of respect because they're the other Manitoba team. And, there's enough competition on the ice. I won't create any friction off the ice by putting them down the batting order here. They had an interesting draft in 2019. The Ice had the first 2 picks in the draft. The Brandon Wheat Kings had the 5th and 6th picks in that draft. They also had in that first round the 16th pick. So they selected Nate Danielson, Tyson Zimmer, and Ryland Roersma all in the first round in 2019. Danielson played on the youth Olympic team for Canada that won a bronze medal in Switzerland. He's the first of those 3 picks and very talented. All 3 are forwards, by the way. I mentioned Tyson Zimmer. He's from Russell, Manitoba, so we've got a good Manitoba boy in there, and you always want to give those guys a chance to shine. And I think anytime you bring 3 first-round picks into your program, and it's a pretty good program too. Let's be fair, the Wheat Kings, some people say built for this year. They've got a lot of experience on that team, plus 3 quality guys like that. So I think an interesting time for the Pats in the sense that they've got 3 good names coming in. Looking around the rest of the league, there are other Manitobans, or around the rest of the division, there are other Manitobans of note. Denton Matejchuk is a name that comes up out of Dominion City. We saw a little bit of him last year, Mac, a guy who looks so smart and so slick on the blue line. He's got good puck skills, good skating, good vision. Got into a few games with the Moose Jaw Warriors. He also played in that Youth Olympics for Canada and has played in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League for Steinbach. So I know that the Warriors have got a lot of good young players and are building for the future. I think a lot of Denton Matejchuk and are anticipating him coming in and even as a full first year guy, eating up a lot of minutes. So that's a guy that I think I'm curious to see, because I saw him play last year and I thought, boy, that's 15. Give me some 16, because there's a good player there. Swift Current, Saskatoon, and Prince Albert, we need to get to. Matthew Ward, a forward with Swift Current, is a teammate actually coming out of West Vancouver of Connor Bedard's. So there's a guy who's got a pretty good pedigree. His production shows it, 64 points in 34 games. They've also got a goalie in the pipeline for Swift Current who's a Manitoban, Reed Dick, who played with Winkler this year in the MJHL and had some pretty impressive stats. They've already got a pretty good Manitoban in goal there, and Isaac Poulter, but it looks like they're adding another one with Reed Dick. Saskatoon Blades looking forward to top 10 selection Brandon Lazowski joining their team. He's another one of these skilled forwards who can really motor and make plays, and they're excited about adding him to the mix of a really good Saskatoon team, as we know as well. And the Prince Albert Raiders, it's funny, we forget sometimes they're the defending league champs in the sense that they're the last team that won the Edgerton House Cup way back when. And so they've got an interesting player coming in by the name of Niall Crocker. And I say the part about the championship because Niall ended up being the last pick of the first round. And it's easy to say, well, last pick of the first round. Yeah, first round. Remember that. Big, strong forward, skilled guy out of British Columbia, Delta Hockey Academy. I know he's on the radar with the Hockey Canada programs involved at the U17 level in some of their virtual camps. So, every one of these teams is proud of the players they're bringing in. And the name might not be Bedard, but there are the names we're going to get to know very well.
There's no question. There's no shortage of talent within the East Division when you look through all the teams. What do you got for us this week as we move a little bit closer to the Regina bubble?
Yeah, exciting times. I guess we talked about newcomers to watch. How about a returning player to watch? Owen Peterson, 28 goals last year, 22 assists, 50 points in 61 games. Size, smarts, work ethic, leadership tools, all the things you want in your program. Just a terrific young guy, and I'm going to catch up with Owen, see how things are going as he isolates and packs and gets ready to be a part of the bubble. It's an interesting time for those players because after all of the waiting and all of the training and all of the wondering, now they're just a couple of days away from getting together. So I want to just check in with Owen and see how he's doing, and I'm sure I'll be able to feel the smile through the phone when we catch up.
Yeah, there's no question. Like you said, a real productive season last year, and he just got better and better and better as the year went on.
He had a stretch there in January. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head where he was just on a tear. It was like he couldn't help himself. Every time he got around the net, he was able to put it in. And, I give him a lot of credit because, he's got the size. There are lots of guys with size who could go stand by the net and not get 28 goals. But he knows where to get to, and then he knows what to do when it comes to him. He has no trouble putting the puck away. I know he works at it, but it's also, I think, a knack. There's a skill there for him. And I'm sure there's a small bit of disappointment that he wasn't drafted because in a lot of respects, the feeling was he was a candidate. Well, I know he was a candidate to be drafted, but the feeling was that he might get selected, and it just didn't work out. This happens to players all the time. It's one opportunity. There are many opportunities ahead for a guy like this if he keeps working. And I think Owen's the kind of a guy who might, tuck that away a little bit too and use that to drive him to have a big season here in these 24 games.
And as we move away, I guess, from individuals, is there anything else that we should look forward to or should know as we move closer to the season?
Well, I don't know. I guess I'm like you, Mac, and a lot of the fans. I'm just curious to know how the teams are going to be, who's going to compete for the top spot and what teams are going to be better than they were before, making progress in the right direction, that sort of thing. So I made some calls, talked to people in each of the markets, contacts that I know are working with teams or in the media business. And and did a kind of an informal poll. Who do you like other than your team? Because we don't want people picking their own. But who do you like, and why do you like them, and who should we be watching for in terms of teams battling for that top spot, and also what team do you think is on the move? What team do you think is maybe was down the standings a little bit before, but is ready to make a statement and ready to start to move up? And so be fun to take a look at that and just talk a little bit about it. More as speculation, and just kind of create coffee talk or something to talk online with your friends about as you think about things getting started, heading into what will be a great season in Regina.
Well, we're looking forward to it. Thanks again, Mitch.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Well, that'll just about do it for this week's episode of Icebreaker. Make sure to check us out on social media at Icebreaker Show with 2 W's on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Appreciate the listens wherever you listen to podcasts. We're available on all of them. Tell your friends if you enjoy it, have them take a listen, and we will talk to you next week.